Hiya, so it's me, London Cigar Smoker, and I'm here at this year's Summertime Smoke here in High Wycombe at EJ Churchill Shooting Ground. You can hear some of the shooting going on behind me. This is the second year that this festival's taken place, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's got a good opportunity for everyone to meet different makers of the cigar brands. This year we've got Rocky Patel, Pete Johnson from Tatuaje Cigars. There's Plasencia, Dalmore are going to be doing talks. It's going to be a fantastic day. The weather is tip-top, 25 degrees we've got, so that's good because Britain, we're normally used to a bit of rain, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to try and do as much vlogging as I can from this event. Don't know how much footage I'll get, but hopefully it'll give you a bit of an insight as to what goes on in this festival. After attending last year, I was really looking forward to seeing how the Summertime Smoke had grown, and I can honestly say this second edition exceeded expectations. The organisers recommended arriving between 11:30 and midday on the Saturday, and everything was incredibly straightforward. Check-in was super simple, just give your name, collect your wristband and head inside to pick up your goodie bags. You also got to pick which masterclass you wanted to join. There were several throughout the day. Inside the goodie bags, there was a leather cigar case, an insulated drinks tumbler, a cigar stand and a punch cutter, cigar vouchers, spirit sampling vouchers and a food voucher. One of the things I love most about Summertime Smoke is that it isn't just about collecting cigars. The vouchers encourage you to interact with the exhibitors. Instead of simply walking up, grabbing a cigar, moving on, each stand takes the time to talk about your preferences and recommend something that suits your palate. This year's exhibitors included some fantastic names, including A.D. Ventura, Davidoff, Foundation Cigars, La Galera, Hiram & Solomon, Plasencia, Rocky Patel, Tatuaje and West Tampa Tobacco Company. There were also some amazing spirit partners, including Dalmore, Heaven Hill, Remy Martin and Nicky Whiskey. One of my highlights of the day was meeting Pete Johnson from Tatuaje. Pete rarely visits the UK and he has an almost legendary status amongst cigar enthusiasts. Hearing him talk about the origins of Tatuaje, his relationship with Don Pepin Garcia, his father-in-law, and the challenges of building a boutique cigar brand was fascinating. Meeting people like Pete is exactly why these events are so special.
Hi everybody, this is Lewis, the owner of Global Leaf UK, Global Leaf Co. UK. This cigar is actually a true Leguito #1, which would be a 7.5 or 7.5 by 38. Traditional flag cap, pigtail, what we call a Lancero head. Medium to full, based on the RC blend, which is actually the name means retro Cuban to me, but the band is something that I found in an old book from my birth year that was like a old historical band from Cuba. So that's why the name RC. We do other RC series, but the #7 is exclusively in the UK as the Lancero, the full Leguito #1. Under 20 pound in the UK. It's a great price, actually. They made sure to have a great price to help build the brand up a little bit. And Habano Ecuador wrapper, Nicaragua binder and filler. We use 2 binders on every cigar we make. So that's very traditional, very old school. But you will get that little bit of a Nicaraguan punch, but they will mellow down towards the middle, and then you'll start getting that old vibe, that old school vibe to it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's a special cigar.
Oh, incredible. Can you just tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the UK cigar scene?
No, well, I mean,
cigar lounges you like?
for me, when I came, the first time I ever came here was in 2010, and I did events around the UK, and I was a small brand still. My brand was only 7 years old, so not a lot of people knew about us. The price points were very similar to Cuban, so it was a very tough market for us. But I've seen over the last 3 years that I've been coming here constantly, because I did take a break for a while, but now that I'm coming back, I've seen a big increase on the culture. And that's what I love about the promotion of the culture of the cigar industry is big in this country. People are enjoying cigars. People are, unfortunately here, the taxes, you have to pay a lot for cigars, but the culture's here. And I've seen more and more places where you can go and smoke. The first time I came, it was hard to find a place to smoke. And now it's kind of easy to find a place to smoke. So I'm happy to see that the culture is very embraced. It's always been a leader for cigars in the world. I think I hate calling this, I think the newer world cigars are starting to make a push, especially because of the price point, but also the flavor and the consistency. I think is really starting to change people's mind. I think it's a bright future for anybody that's making cigars. So, and hopefully you guys can stay away from plain packaging. Yeah.
And then anything, would you recommend UK people come over to see the factories and farms, during the festivals and stuff?
Yeah, I always recommend people to go to Nicaragua. If there's a festival in Nicaragua, or the Dominican Republic does a fabulous festival. Absolute fabulous festival. Nicaragua does a great festival also. I recommend, if you really want to understand what we do and learn about tobacco and learn about the process, because there's a lot of mysteries. We're not making rockets. There's a lot of mysteries. How are you? Thank you. You're a good friend. There's a lot of mysteries of how cigars are made. So it's important for people to educate. I think education in cigars is super important. So what you do about talking about how cigars are made and talking about, factories all over the world, it's important for people to understand that the people that make the cigars are truly artists. And when you actually first visit a real cigar factory, you'll really understand that why are cigars so cheap? That's usually the first question. Maybe not some of the other ones that are now 600 pound, but but there are cigars out there that you're like, I feel like I should be paying more, because there's a lot of hands that touch the tobacco before you get to smoke them. So I always recommend people to go to a factory and see how they're made, because I've been to a couple car factories. I didn't really know how a car was made. I knew how to rebuild an engine, but to see a car being built, it gave me a whole new perspective. So it's really important to kind of educate yourself, and that's why I do documentaries about cigars, because I want people to learn about our industry, because to me it's the best industry in the world. Cigar smokers are relatively lonely people. We're always looking for a friend to smoke with. I always recommend, if you want a friend, go to a cigar store and sit down and start a conversation with the guy next to you, because he could end up being your best friend, and he could also be your worst enemy, but you have one thing in common. It's the greatest equalizer in the world. So yeah, I think the industry is an amazing industry. We're dealing with a lot of regulations, obviously, so we're always battling it. I wish some of the politicians would actually understand common sense more, because what we do as adults should be our choice to do it as adults. Generational smoking bans do not work. They will never work. It doesn't make sense, especially when you're 84 and your buddy's 83 and you have to buy him a cigar because he fell under the generational ban. there's a lot of moving parts, but go to the factories, go visit the cigar countries, go to a festival. You'll enjoy yourself. You'll learn a lot about the process, and you'll appreciate it more. And you'll appreciate what you're enjoying. Because ultimately, if you don't have the education and you just want to puff on a cigar, yeah, you can get enjoyment out of it, but you'll get much more when you really know the process.
Oh, amazing.
It's like going to distilleries and wineries, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And you'll appreciate what you're spending on it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Oh, well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
But honestly, the biggest highlight of the entire day has to go down to the community, the cigar community of the UK. I was genuinely blown away by the number of people who came over and said hello because they'd read the blog or followed my cigar journey online. It honestly meant loads, and I ended up chatting so much I only smoked one cigar during the whole entire 7-hour event, which probably says everything about how enjoyable the atmosphere was. Years ago, I remember feeling dead nervous walking into cigar events on my own. Now it genuinely feels like I'm meeting up with an extended family.
Born in Los Angeles.
No. I'll skip this part. Born and raised in Maine, northeast of Massachusetts. Lived in a small town by the name of Gardner, Maine. Had a dream to become a rock star, and I left Maine to go to Los Angeles to play music on the Sunset Strip. Played all the famous clubs, the Troubadour, the Roxy, the Whiskey. Played with very famous people, including this guy named Randy Castillo, who was Ozzy Osbourne's drummer for a while. Had a good time at it, and then my band broke up and I needed a job, and I found the world of cigars that I was already smoking. But then I got an offer to work in a cigar store in Los Angeles, and realized that the cigar industry was way nicer than the music industry, and I've been here ever since. So now I'm 33 years in the cigar industry, 23 years with the brand Tatuaje. You want me to keep going?
No, but really, you're working in the shop.
I was working behind a counter, always working behind a counter. I'm the ultimate cigar nerd. I challenge anybody in the room to be a bigger nerd than I am. Yeah, let's go. I mean, he knows. I talked to him yesterday for a long time. We're nerds. Cigar smokers are ultimately lonely people, and I always tell people if you wanna make a friend, go to a cigar store, because you'll probably make your best friend and your worst enemy in the same conversation. But at the end of that debate or conversation, you can get up and say, "I'll see you tomorrow." But yeah, we all are looking for companionship, and that's what is magical about this thing. So shame on governments to try to plain package, but I made a joke with Parrish as he was talking that when I was in Los Angeles, it was pretty typical for any cigar store to have a secret cabinet in the back with Cuban cigars. We just didn't show them to anybody unless we said, the secret password. So ultimately, what the government's going to do is create a black market, and shame on them for not having common sense. So hopefully it doesn't happen to you guys, because it's already happened in Canada, Australia, and Canada manages their way through it.
Yeah. So listen, you're working in the cigar shop.
Yeah.
But what was it? What was the pivot that actually made you feel that I want to be more invested in the industry? I want to have a cigar.
Well, I mean, I was a nerd. Again, I go back to that. I knew every cigar in the humidor. I knew every country of origin. I could smell the cigar and tell you what country of origin it was back then. I was a huge Cuban cigar collector, and I had this vision of maybe one day having my name on a brand, on a cigar, but I didn't really know that side of the business. I knew retail. And there's a quick story. My guitar player's dad called me. He's the television network QVC.
Yeah.
So QVC, this guy named Jan Muller, he was the guy you'd wake up in the middle of the night. He was selling like the Paint Roller Plus or the Red Devil Grill. That was my guitar player's dad, and he was kind of a mentor for us. But he called me because I know you're in the cigar industry. What do you think about making a cigar? It's kind of a hot thing right now. This was in 1996. I was already in the industry for a little while. So I decided to take a trip down to the Dominican Republic, and I went to a few factories. Some were great friends that I spent time with that were too busy to work with me, but these are also the people that gave me the nickname Tattoo Pete, and that's where Tatuaje comes from. So Carlito Fuente, Carlos Sr., Robbie Levin who owns Ashton Cigars, they gave me the nickname Tattoo Pete. That's where Tatuaje comes from. But I went to a couple other factories where they said, here, we can put your band on this cigar. And I said, that's your cigar. And I knew what cigar it was because I knew their cigars. I told them, I said, I don't want that. I want something new. I want something that I can be part of. I want something that I can help, create, like a designer. Like I wanted to create the design, creative director. And I left that trip going back to Jan and saying, I don't really know enough about that side of the industry. So I kind of gave up on that dream. Fast forward to 2003, I was depressed in the cigar industry. I thought my run working in the cigar store was coming to an end. I was working for a dead-end job, but a good private cigar club where I met a lot of people and gained a lot of relationships. Some of the relationships are in this room. And I almost left the industry to go to wine, because I was a big wine geek, and started going up to Paso Robles, California to look for property to maybe have my own vineyard, to get out of the cigar industry completely. And an old friend of mine who worked for a company called Viazon, which used to be the owners of Punch and Hoyo in the United States, came to me and he says, you still want to make a cigar? I said, no, I gave up that dream. Because we got a new guy that just came in from Cuba, and he didn't even know the guy's name. He goes, his name's like Pepe or something. He might be able to make you something. So I said, well, send me a cigar. So they sent me one cigar, a couple of cigars, but the same blend. I didn't like them. And he called me and says, what'd you think? I go, nah, it's not for me. He goes, don't worry, we're coming to Los Angeles. We're going to sit down with you and we're going to see if we can create something. So in walks this guy named Jose Garcia. They called him Pepin. I didn't speak Spanish. I knew the word baño. That's about it. He didn't speak English. And they asked me through translation, what do you want? I said, well, something medium to full. And he sat down and he made me 3 Toros. Personally, being a traditionalist, I don't like a traditional Toro, I hate saying this, but a New World Toro. I don't like a 6x50 Toro. For some reason, I like a standard Robusto, or a Rothschild, but I never liked the 6x50. And they asked me, what do you think? I go, not really for me. And I went to my locker downstairs in the store, and I grabbed a box of Juan Lopez Petit Coronas that I have had for a while that were smoking fucking brilliantly. And I gave Pepin one, and I lit one up myself, and he looked at me through a translation and says, you want this? And I said, yeah, I want what's in your head and in your hands. I mean, Pepin left Cuba. He started rolling cigars at 11 years old. So he had this history already. He was under 50 at the time. He had this history in his hands and his mind of what Cuban tobacco was. And with the same tobacco, the exact same tobacco of the cigars I didn't like, he rolled me a new cigar that I fell in love with. And it's because the idea of what he has in his head is truly a master. A guy that can actually manipulate the tobacco so much and change what you think is like New World tobacco and turn it into something that's truly Old World. And that's what I always wanted. Old World cigars. So I hate the word New World. I'm Old World for a new generation. That's it. Anybody got a lighter? No one?
No. So you started the brand in 2003?
2003. I started with a whopping 300 box order, 6 sizes, all very traditional Cuban portfolio sizes, and very odd sizes for our market because a lot of people weren't smoking especiales or lanceros, or what we would call a Leguito number 1. Not a lot of people were smoking Marevas, which I'm smoking right now. This is actually made in Miami. It's one of the first 6 sizes I ever made. 5 1/8 by 42. What you guys would know as a Monte 4. Not a lot of people were smoking Prominentes, true double Corona. I threw in a couple newer sizes, like the Gordito sizes are 5.5 by 50, which would be the San Cristobal La Fuerza. And of course, you know, a classic pyramid. But one of my favorite cigars is truly old school, which is a 6 3/8 by 43. It's a Cazadores. Absolutely my favorite size. If someone put one of these guns to my head and said, you can only smoke one for the rest of your life, that's the cigar I take to the island. And then the family sent me samples. There was 5 rollers. Pepin was one of them. My sister-in-law now was one of the rollers. This lady named Estrella was one of the rollers. She still works with us in Miami. And a couple other people that passed on or, you know, left rolling cigars ultimately. But 300 boxes, that's not a lot. 300 boxes times 25. It's a very short production. And it was a struggle. It was an expensive cigar made in Miami. All Nicaraguan tobacco at the time. We since have changed the wrapper on those particular cigars to Habano Ecuador. Only because we get a good consistent crop of Habano Ecuador that we can count on. And the first few years was a struggle. You know, everybody thought I was an overnight success in the United States. 2003 was my first trade show. I got 5 retailers, and they're all friends of mine. 2004, Las Vegas, I got a total of 25 retailers, including one of my best friends in the industry, who happens to be one of Lewis's mentors, this guy named Barton Safarian out of Ambassador Cigars in Scottsdale, Arizona, if you ever go there. True gentleman. Seems like he should be a British cigar store owner.
Yeah.
And then I went to New Orleans in 2005, and I got about 75 retailers. And then by the time I got to the trade show in 2006, Cigar Aficionado gave my Taino, which is the Prominente, the number 4 rating, which my sister-in-law rolled. She wasn't my sister-in-law back then. She rolled that cigar. They gave it the number 4 rating. And I got to my booth, and I wore a suit jacket, but with a t-shirt and jeans. Took off the jacket because Vegas is hot. Turned around, and I couldn't move for 3 days straight. And I left that show. No, I left that show with 350 retailers and no idea how I was going to ship all these cigars. It was me, one guy, and one warehouse guy. We packed every single one of those boxes. Hey, listen, I'm a hands-on person. I still pack boxes. I don't believe that I shouldn't be doing the same thing that my employees do. So I get my hands dirty every day. Pretty much I'm the do-all guy. I'm the head of IT, I'm the head of marketing, I'm the head of design. Anything you can think of, I do. But it's because I have an opinion and I have an idea, and I absolutely love what I do, and it comes easy. Yeah. Sometimes a cigar can take me 20 minutes to put together. And sometimes it can never be made because it took me 2 years and I hated it the whole time. So the luxury we have in the tobacco business is if we don't use it, someone else will utilize that tobacco for something else, or we can put it somewhere else. But if I don't like a blend, I just don't have to make it. That's pretty simple. And every cigar, even that UK exclusive, he thinks it was made for him. But the cigar has to be made for me first, because if I don't like them, I can't make them. And if he doesn't like them, I am stuck smoking all of them, so I better be in love with them. That's the simple math for me. That's my core part of what Tatuaje is we have to love every single cigar, and the bonus is when you guys actually appreciate what we do. That's it.
Staying authentic. Okay? So, you know, you don't seem to follow trends. you have your vision and you tend to follow, you know, the steps that you've always done.
Yeah, I mean, trends. The only reason why I did a 60 ring gauge in 2004 was because my friend from a cigar store, the dear friend, he had every one of my facings. He's no longer in business. He said, dude, I'm getting a lot of requests for big ring gauges. And I told him this. I said, well, if Cuba's not doing it, I'm not doing it. I have a roadmap. I have a game plan. I have a book that I follow. And Cuba didn't invent cigars, but they perfected them. And if I'm going to try to perfect something outside of Cuba, I might as well lean towards that model. I believe that we're doing them better. Sorry. I truly believe that the companies out there are having more consistency, more quality. And this is not to say that I still dream of tasting a Cuban cigar, that I go back in time and taste a cigar that I remember from 30 years ago. Because I do have that sense memory that I want to taste again. And maybe one day Cuba will be free and I'll get to make a Cuban cigar. We'll see.
Well, let's talk about your creative process. I mean, you have an incredible mind. Okay?
I'm a musician. You write songs. Every cigar is a song for me.
You have like the monster series.
Yeah, that was all an inspiration from a friend, because he brought me he kept on telling me I needed a theme cigar. He's talking about the Monster series that we do. I needed a theme cigar. And I was like, well, I have a couple theme ideas, but I'm not sure. One of them was called Rivals, and I was going to use the colorways of like sports teams that were big rivals to each other. Come to find out, like the time I was thinking about it, the Lakers and the Celtics actually ended up in the championship that same year, and I was going to do the whole thing, but I missed the boat. But he was a big sneaker collector, and he pulled out a sneaker, a Nike sneaker with Frankenstein on it. As soon as I saw Frankenstein, I was like, monsters. That's easy. And within maybe a couple hours of sitting in that store and smoking a cigar, I had the plan already done for pretty much the whole series. They had to be boxes of 13. I made a mistake because I said that they have to be $13. So I can't increase for inflation. Sorry, this year later. They have to be in a coffin-shaped box. When we think about coffins for cigars, they have to be in what would look like a casket, which was not the best idea for the cigar industry, because actually some of my mentors in the business would see what I was doing and they're like, are you fucking crazy? I go, it's a monster. They're monsters. I'm not trying to promote death or anything like that. That's monsters. And eventually it caught on to where eventually some people tried to copy it. And luckily I registered the shape of the coffin, so I can protect that. I can also protect the word monster, although there is a company called Monster Energy, which I have battled with because they think they own everything. But they're also owned by Coca-Cola, which is a lot bigger than Tatuaje. So, but yeah, it's a fun theme. It gives me a little creative outspin. It gives me the ability to play. But ultimately, all those monsters are based off of core product. So there's probably something in the core line that might taste like it, but it might not look like it. That's it. It's an iteration of something I already do, a size that I don't do, but a blend that I might already play around with. And the whole thing about the monsters is supposed to be a driving force to help promote the core product. Because without core product, I don't have a brand. I mean, I can sell a lot of monsters, trust me. If I just sold monsters, I would have a happy life, but it's not 100% fulfilling. Like, I want to have choices. I want to wake up in the morning and have a different cereal, or have a different breakfast, or have eggs or toast or whatever. Go to lunch and have a salad, or maybe a piece of pizza or a steak. You wake up in the morning, you're always smoking the same thing. What's the spice of life, right? It's variety, right? I have a huge portfolio, and it's impossible to bring that huge portfolio over to here. But we tried to bring a good mixture into the market. I don't know if you guys know, but we did a little bit of a reboot a few years ago, I was with another distributor. I decided to spread my wings a little bit and hooked up with Lewis. But I even told Lewis I wanted to wait. I wanted to wait for the market to clear a little bit, and then we come back in and reset by bringing a variety, bringing choices that kind of accent mild, medium, full. Not just, people think of Tatuaje as always strong, but there's a lot of stuff we make that has a lot of balance and nuances to it. So if you want strong, there's a cigar called Fausto we make. We don't even bring it here. So Lewis has said it's not for the UK market.
Of all the cigars you've created over the years, which one are you proud of?
Well, they're all. I'm proud of all of them. But the one I go back to the gun to the head. It's the Havana Cazadores 6 3/8 by 43. If you haven't had a Cazadores size, it's a beautiful shape. It falls right, in between like a Cervante or a Dahlia. Really an elegant cigar. But the Cazadores I make is a little bit more punchy than the rest of the line, because all the first original 6 sizes are actually blended to size, so they all have their own blend. They all have their own character. Because I'm not going to have the same character in this size that I am the 7 5/8 by 49. They're all individual. But the Especiale, which is my Lancero that we make in Miami, is a touch milder, and the Cazadores is a touch stronger.
So today, we're here basically in the UK to launch the RC7.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are other sizes in the RC series. Why a Lancero?
Well, I'll tell you, Lewis really wanted a Lancero for the UK market because it's one of those sizes that seems to perform well over here. I can proudly say that Tatuaje makes more Lanceros than any other company, including my in-laws. I'm the reason why they make Lanceros, because I was the one that convinced them to make that size, to buy the molds for me to make that size. But between the Monster Lancero series and the Skinny Monster Lancero series and Limited Lancero collection, that's 30 just alone right there. Plus the other iterations that I have of different ones, including the RC number 7. Why we picked the RC number 7, long story, one of my favorite cigars was a Diplomatico 7, which is a Corona Especial size. I don't even think they make it anymore, do they?
No.
And I had forgot about the Diplomatico number 6, which we talked about yesterday, which was a true full-size Legato number 1, because I never saw it when I was younger. I only saw the number 7. So that number stuck in my head, and Lewis liked the number 7. It's not rocket science. We just come up with things and it's off the cuff, and yeah, it's a catchy name. Could have been called RC number 6, I guess.
And what does RC stand for?
RC means retro Cuban. If you guys know this book called Post-Embargo Cuban Cigars by Min Ramney, white book, big encyclopedia of cigars.
Yeah.
It's a great tool. And it's one of my favorite books. My friend used to import them into the United States, so I had a lot of access to them. And he became Min Ramney's good friend. But there's, in the commemorative band section, and I have to go back and confirm this, but I remember there's a band in the commemorative band section that had something to do with a Cuban youth festival or something. And if I remember correctly, it was from 1970, and I was born in 1970. Could have been 1976, I have no idea, but in the 70s. And everything in the 70s, I kind of get that retro vibe. So I used the same colorways, changed the design of the band, put my logo in the center, and I called it the RC series for Retro Cuban. Just because of the old colorway. Because it definitely has a retro vibe, the colors on the band, but the sizes that I started with the RC line were a Salomon and a Diadema. 2 giant Perfectos, made in Miami. I bought the molds from a guy out of Canada who was making all the molds for Cuba. And we still have those same molds. We have 1 mold set of each that we still have in Miami, and that's the only place where we make those cigars. So it's just old school, and anytime we add a size to the RC line, it has to kind of mimic something old. So that's pretty much it.
So we've got. So let's take you back to a shop. You're working in the shop. We've got many different styles of smoking here. I'm a beginner. You've got every single cigar that you make.
Well,
What would be a beginner's
but
cigar?
what I make or what I was selling back then?
What you make, your range. What
Wow.
would you recommend for a beginner?
If I had something to recommend to a beginner, I would probably always recommend Cabaret One, which is Connecticut, Ecuador, grown by ASP. Just a creamy cigar, good flavor. A few people have them in their hands. It's not overwhelming. All the primings of the tobacco are more mid to low, nothing high. There's no Lajero in that cigar. It's all Viso and below. Just a quick note, every cigar we do, including the tiniest cigar we make, including the least expensive cigar we make, has 2 binders. Every cigar. Just so you know, and that's not because of me, that's because of Pepin. So any cigar the Garcias produce, could be for me, it could be for Nick Melillo from Foundation, it could be for John Huber from Crown Heads, it could be the Garcias, it could be the cigars that they make for the Ashton family. 2 binders on every cigar. It's a thing that Pepin perfected while he was in Cuba, and it stuck with him. When he was training people traveling around the island, he would teach people how to do it this way.
Is that a flavour thing? Or a...
Flavor, complexity. Also, if you ever have a cigar that explodes on you, the cigar will hold together and you can actually finish it without the wrapper. There was a great story that I was in Rotterdam with Yanni and Jaime and my sister-in-law, Donnie. And there was a Cuban roller working at the event, rolling cigars, and she was putting 2 binders in a very particular way. And of course my wife and my sister-in-law went over to talk to her. Cuban people get attracted to each other real quick. They know how to find each other throughout the world. And someone else from another cigar company walked, I won't say the name, walked over to the table and he asked, he goes, "Why do you use 2 binders? We only use 1 binder." And she piped up and she goes, "That's the way her dad taught me how to roll." That was fucking cool.
Okay, so let's finish this up. You've been smoking for a long time.
35 years.
So,
I used to smoke cigars while I was playing music on stage. Not the most comfortable thing to do. But I had my little kit on my amplifier and I would go back and take puffs in between. That was around 1991.
so any cigar, okay?
Yeah.
What would be your one cigar that you would want to smoke, and where would you want to smoke?
I already told you, the Desert Island.
Any cigar.
Well, on my first trip to Havana in 1998, I heard about this one roller down there that I had some cigars in my collection from him, but I never had been to Cuba before. And I somehow was invited on a trip to Havana. We had to go through Nassau, Bahamas to Havana. And I knew that he was at the La Corona factory. But then he moved from La Corona and moved to Partagas. So I found him at the Partagas factory. And his name was Rodolfo Taboada. He's passed. And Taboada just had this vibe to him, very much like a Pepin, like they could put together a cigar on a whim and you're just smoking, it's fucking great. Everything I smoked from him was awesome. And I was talking to the chief of production, well not the chief of production, the head of the factory, and he asked me what I wanted. And I told him a couple of cigars, he goes, "Yeah, we can't make it that. It's only for this market. We're not making them right now." And I said, "Okay, I want a Florida Cano short Churchill." And he goes, "How do you know about that cigar?" I go, "I had 35 bundles of them in Los Angeles at one time. And I smoked a lot of them." He goes, "How many you want?" I go, "A bundle for me and a bundle for my buddy." He goes, Come back at 5 p.m. I'm going to have one of the rollers roll. I go, who? He goes, the guy up front. And it was Rodolfo Tatuaje. So we came back at 5 p.m. I think it was like 5:30 because he was delayed a little bit. Picked up the bundles. And for me, cigars are like chiclets. I smoke them like I can get another one. I don't look at the dollar amount. I look at the pleasure behind it. And I was in Los Angeles at the Grand Havana Room and sitting down, and a friend came up and said, Pete, do you ever heard of a cigar called a Florida Short Churchill? And I said, yeah. Give me a second. And I went to my locker and I grabbed two, one for him, one for me. And I gave him a cigar. He goes, what's this? I go, it's a Florida Short Churchill. He goes, get the fuck out of here. Do you know how much these things sell for in Hong Kong? I don't know. He goes, $4,000. And I go, get the fuck out of here. Give me that cigar back. I never took the cigar back because I didn't care. I paid $2 for it. I think I paid $50 from Tatuaje to make me 25 cigars. Phenomenal cigars. So if I couldn't smoke my own, and I couldn't smoke something that the family made, I would request a Florida Short Churchill from the mid-90s. There you go. May I?
Has anyone got any questions?
Yeah.
I'm a talker, so my life. Yeah.
Nicaragua versus Honduras.
It's a tough call right now. I won't go into politics because people might be recording and writing, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
With the cigars.
They're both wildly different. The closer you go to Honduras in Nicaragua, like Jalapa, you notice the changes in the tobacco. So when you get to Honduras, you definitely notice the change in the tobacco. So if you're growing the same seed varietals, you're going to taste a different nuance. And sometimes maybe, for lack of better words, I might taste something you won't taste, and you might taste something I won't taste. But you might get a little bit more graham cracker out of Honduran tobacco, a little bit more cereal maybe. You know, Esteli is a little punchier, that volcanic soil, punchy, spicy, a lot of dark chocolate notes. And it really depends on what you put on the cigar as a wrapper. I mean, the wrapper is a big key. I mean, that's why I love doing the teaching tool where I have 5 different cigars on the shelf with 5 different wrappers, and the internal of every cigar is identical. And it's just a way for people to understand, so they can understand their palate. Because they might say they hate San Andreas wrapper, but then they smoke it and go, holy shit, I didn't know I liked it. But they could also come back and say, I absolutely for sure hate San Andreas wrapper. So I want people to be educated. I want them to educate their palate, because the more you have the education, the more you understand what you're enjoying, and the more you can appreciate and talk about it too. And once you appreciate it more and you can talk about it more, you can actually spread the word about this small cottage industry. So thank you for that. It really depends, but I would say sometimes some tobaccos in Honduras can be a little bit more passive. But that's where if you want passive in Nicaragua, you go towards Jalapa. If you want punchy and a little bit more aggressive, you go towards Esteli. If you want a good mix, you go to a region that my father-in-law created called Namahi, which is like a little valley that they grow in by themselves, and it's kind of like a little mix. We also have Cundega that could be a mix of the two. The Garcias have 2 giant farms in Honduras now, one in the Talango Valley and one in Jamastran. I love my brother-in-law is a very funny guy. He's very serious but very funny also. He goes, I bought a new small farm. I go, how big is it? No, small. I go, how big is it? No, only 100 manzanas. That's 170 acres, by the way. So that's a new farm in Jamastran. He actually named it after my dog who passed away. He got Asher. So it's called Villa Luna. Talanga, I grew up smoking a cigar from the Talango Valley, so Talanga could have a lot going on. A lot of soil, different soils in that region. And you're talking about 400 manzanas flat, but you know, some waves, but a lot of soil differentials. So you get a lot of different characteristics, and that's where the seed growing comes into play. And I know nothing about that other than my brother-in-law was an agronomist, my father-in-law is a farmer, not a technical agronomist, but he could look at the soil and go, we need to do something. My brother-in-law is more technical, but they know, okay, Corojo 99 is going to work perfect in that plot. And everything is designated by plot and lot. That's how you get the blending, and that's how you get the nuances. I always say that if I took one farm with 5 lots, I could probably blend 1,000 different cigars, because seed varietal could change, priming of the leaf, the soil. You're talking about so many different variables that you could actually blend a lot. You get tired, but you could. And Rocky always talks about, how thousands and thousands of blends. It's true. You could go, if you want to make yourself mentally crazy, you could sit there all day and blend cigars and never come up and be happy with any of them. I have a friend in the industry that was sitting in the factory with the Garcias, and they were blending him cigars to try, and he goes, I feel a little strange, because normally when I go to a factory I go through 20 different blends before I find the right one, but the first cigar they gave me I love. I go, dude, this is your palate. If you love it, that's your cigar. Like, that's it. Like, you overthink it. I've overthought cigars that they never got produced. Like, 2 years down the road, I talked about this earlier, 2 years down the road, testing, and you're like never happy. Then I just kind of, you clean the slate and you start painting over the old canvas, It's the best way to put it. I mean, working with tobacco, and again, I'm not a master at anything, I'll always be a student. I'm an apprentice always until the day I die. Working with tobacco is like having a Pantone book in front of you and trying to pick, just a few colors out of the Pantone book. It's impossible.
What is the trigger for you to say now you've learned that pull the trigger rather than keep trying to improve it? Is there something that makes
I go into the factory in the morning with a very clean palate. I haven't had anything. I make sure that I haven't had anything that will affect my taste.
Yeah.
And I have cigars waiting for me that I told them to put together the day before. And sometimes I might change up the priming of the Ligero, maybe bring it down to a high viso, or change the wrapper because I'm not sure which wrapper I want to use on the project. And I put them all in front of me, and I light every single one of them at the same time. And it's kind of like wine tasting for me. You're always going to go back to the one that tastes the best. That's the best. You want to screw around and really find the cigar you like the best. Put 5 of them in front of you and light all of them and smoke them at the same pace. You're always going to smoke one more than the other 4. And that's a great way to train your palate too, because you're eventually going to find what you love. So yeah, it could be an epiphany and it happens like this, or it could be 2 years later and I never make it. I did a cigar I waited 4 years to put together. I was putting it together slowly. I tested it with some drops with my club here and there so they could try an iteration, not telling them what it was. Didn't even tell them the blend. But I happened to be waiting. The original wrapper was Habano, Ecuador, in like a mid to lower priming, but Rosado Claro. So colorway. But I was waiting for the Corojo that the Garcias grew to be ready. And as soon as the Corojo was done, that's when I said, okay, yeah, that's the cigar. As soon as I tried it with the Corojo, I go, okay, now we're going into production. So it took 4 years before I put it into production.
What's the process of, you talked about creating kind of Pantone swatches of flavours. You've got a new seed that you've put into a plot, never been grown before. What's the process of documenting that, committing it to kind of a memory or?
Well, I mean, it depends on the seed. Some are test varietals, and a lot of them are new seeds from the island. Don't ask me how we get them. But it could be like, I forgot what the newest Criollo was, 2020, 2024?
2024,
Yeah. What was the latest grow? I forgot. 18? 2019. Yeah, thank you. They usually do a test lot to see what it's going to be like, and if they feel that it's something that is worthy of producing, they'll do it. But, you know, there's Criollo 98, Corojo 99, the word Habano 2000 in the United States is like one of those words we don't say, so we just call it Habano. If you know the history of Habano 2000 in the United States, there were people growing Habano 2000 once the seed came over from Cuba, and it wouldn't burn. It was like asbestos. This thing would not burn. And eventually, the seed morphed itself, and who really perfected it was Oliva Tobacco. Don't confuse Oliva Tobacco with Oliva Cigar. Two different families, two different companies. Oliva Tobacco started growing it, but no one was buying it because they were used to hearing the word Habano 2000. They called my father-in-law because we were struggling to find wrappers because our current supplier wasn't giving us the wrappers we needed. And he took a chance. He came to me and said, "Pete, I need you to switch to Habano 2000." And I did the same thing. I don't know. He goes, "No, it's good wrapper. It burns really good." I go, "You sure?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Well, okay, I need one of every one of my cigars wrapped with Habano 2000. And I want to smoke them and see how they perform." I noticed the difference, but I also knew that it's not a big enough difference that people would really go, "Oh, they fucking changed the blend." But I'm an open book, so I told people immediately, I switched to Habano 2000. Yeah, done. And I tell people, you're not going to taste a huge difference, nuances, but not a huge difference. And that cigar, that wrapper choice ended up becoming a great thing for the family because they actually helped put Habano back on the map. And Pepin and Jaime don't buy a box of Habano. They don't walk into Oliva and say, "We need 6 boxes of XL Darks." They walk in and say, "I want those 20 pilons, and we're going to do our work to it." And their work is water, temperature, and time. That's it. Nothing else. There's no guy in the corner of the factory dunking the leaves in a bucket with coloring. It might happen in some places, but it does not happen in any of the Garcia factories. It's water, temperature, and time, and the longer you let it sit, the darker it will get, as long as you do it slowly, because if you do it too quick, those pilons can catch on fire. So you have to be careful with tobacco, and it's choices with new varietals. Pelo de Oro. I'll give you a quick story with Pelo de Oro. The Garcias, I went to Cuba in 07 to visit their hometown in Baez, Cuba, and Pepin and Jaime and Maria put a bag on my nightstand and said, "You need to take this to your plane flight tomorrow." And it was a big bag of seeds, including Pelo de Oro. I'll never forget it. Pepin had a small bale of Pelo de Oro underneath a bed in a house, and he rolled me a cigar on the kitchen table that might have blown my mind. But the seeds were in this, bags, like the grocery store bags. And I woke up and we had a 4-hour drive to Havana. I go, "Where's the bag?" And they're like, so Yanni, my now wife, says, Poppy, her dad, and Jaime has to meet with the local government because the local government heard that there's some gringo trying to buy tobacco from the farmers locally, which I wasn't doing. But I was touring around town and trying to get into the factory to say hello. I wanted to see Pepin's seat where he used to sit in the factory. I couldn't even walk in the factory. We weren't allowed. I could see it from afar, the table he used to sit at. It's a very famous photo. If you ever see a picture of Pepin rolling cigars, it's that table I could see from a distance. And I said, "What happened to the seeds?" And they said, "No, Pepin and Jaime have to do. My mom's going to take them with her." Well, her suitcase got lost coming back to Miami. A month later, the seeds showed up at the house. The luggage showed up at the house with the seeds in it. So we had a good stash of seeds. So they started planting Pelo d'Oro. And I used it for the first time in a cigar called La Vérité, which is called the Truth in French because it was a single vintage, single farm cigar. Not easy to put together, but this is my second iteration of it, 2009 vintage. They happen to grow Pelo d'Oro on that farm. And Pelo d'Oro is a pretty, oh, we gotta go? You're cutting me out. It's a pretty amped up flavor profile. So it could be sweet, but it also could be gamey. So think about lamb. Think about lamb. If you use too much of it, you get that over characteristic. Very like San Andreas. You use too much San Andreas, you're gonna taste it. And so you kind of have to limit it. And one time I was putting a cigar together and I didn't like it, but my co-workers loved it, and I still didn't like it. And I went back to Pepin and I said, if you look at this blend, what would you do differently? And I had a full leaf of Pelo d'Oro in it. And he said, half a leaf. He didn't have to taste it. He looked at the blend on paper, he says, half a leaf. And that change made the whole difference. So, anyway, thank you.
Before long, 7 hours had disappeared and it was time to head home. Huge amount of credit has to go to Parish Patel and the entire Brightleaf team. Events of this size don't happen by accident, and yet throughout the day, everything ran incredibly smoothly.
Hey guys, Pete Johnson with Tatuaje Cigars. Go visit LondonCigarSmoker.com and look at his blog. He's behind the camera.